Welcome into Devil's Digest TV, presented by Burrito Express and Santan Ford, following Arizona State's eighth spring practice through the spring ball season. I'm here alongside publisher Hod Rubino. I'm Justin Lacertosa. Hod, we've had the chance to document this new look ASU roster throughout the spring so far. Now we've hit the midpoint, and tonight was the first scrimmage. And Kenny Dillingham talked about the fact that, after the scrimmage, the offense was getting to a point where, he meets his expectations in terms of accuracy, and he said there was one interception that bounced off, but that wasn't an interception throw, as he referred to it. But in terms of the quarterback room, the running backs, and this new receiver core, which is among some of the best in the nation when it comes to the transfer portal, what have you made of ASU's offense and from tonight's scrimmage?
Yeah, I think up until the scrimmage today, I think the offense maybe started out spring practice kind of on the slower pace, but I feel that all throughout the week and tonight in the scrimmage, they did have a good showing. Maybe towards the end of the scrimmage, did not play as well as they did in the beginning of the scrimmage. But when I look at the quarterbacks, I thought all four quarterbacks did play really well. I know all eyes are on Cutter Bowley, who's going to be the presumed starter for the season opener, and I thought he was extremely accurate. Really displayed a lot of good decision making. Gets the ball out of his hands really quick. There was a sequence in tonight's scrimmage. I think we had 5 or 6 passes completed in a row for short and medium routes. I still think if there's any area of his game that you're looking to maybe improve is really the longer throws. And like I said, Justin, ASU has a great arsenal of wide receivers. So you definitely want to utilize that aspect of your offense. But overall, I think Cutter Bowley, if I'm looking at the last 3 practices, that by far has been his best stretch of the spring. And I think we can't forget that he's still a young quarterback. Last year in Kentucky, he was a redshirt freshman. So now being an underclassman signal caller, coming to a brand new team, brand new offense, brand new arsenal of weapons, it does take time to adjust. But I think Cutter Bowley has done well. Mikey Keene is somebody who I thought early in the week did not play well, but tonight, along again with the rest of the quarterbacks, was much better, and I was impressed by the way he performed. And I think that's the quarterback you probably look to be the backup to Cutter Bowley. Jake Fetty, just you keep on being impressed more and more, and sometimes you just really forget that he's a freshman, because he shows a lot of great poise and pocket awareness you don't expect such a young signal caller to display. Sure, he has the moments where he looks like a true freshman, but overall, is somebody who, as we know, came in with a lot of accolades, and I think has performed really well, not only tonight's scrimmage, but really all week long. And even Cam Dyer, I mean, look, he has his work cut out to try to surpass Jake Fetty in the depth chart. But I thought definitely tonight was one of his better showings of the spring. So, when you look at the quarterback battle, I think Bowley is still the clear-cut starter. But, question is, can Jake Fetty surpass Mikey Keene as a backup? That's going to be interesting to see for this spring. Running backs, you just cannot be more impressed with the running back room. Just a lot of talent from top to bottom. Kyson Brown is someone who I thought maybe shined more on Tuesday and Thursday than he did tonight. But again, did have a solid scrimmage, and looks to be, in my opinion, the running back that might get the majority of the carries, even if it's going to be a running back by committee. But I've seen a lot of good things from Jason Brown. We talked in previous weeks about the momentum that he has from the Sun Bowl, really translating to the to the practice field in the spring. But I also thought guys like Man Robinson had a great scrimmage. Carday Mack, the true freshman, shows time and time again why he's not going to be redshirted this year. Just really impressed with what he's done. David Abbott, the transfer from Villanova. I mean, sure is your short yardage running back, but I think he shows that he can be much more than that. A really good receiver out of the backfield. Marquise Gillis is somebody who was really held back out of injury, and I believe tonight was the first time I actually saw 11-11 action. And the Delaware State transfer did show really nice ability running the ball, also catching the ball out of the backfield. I'm really curious to see, now that he's healthy, how well he can do in the second part of spring. And even the redshirt freshman Grayson Ridgen, I thought really had a nice week of practices in the spring. So overall, the running back group is looking great. The wide receiver group, like I said, Justin, they're definitely one of the best in the country. Omar and Miller looks to be maybe that number one target, for the quarterbacks. I mean, I know there's going to be inevitable comparisons to Jordan Tyson because just like Tyson, he's also a transfer from Colorado. But I think this brings like maybe a different skill set. Maybe not a lot of shock and awe plays like Tyson brought, but nevertheless, a very sure-handed, wide receiver that can make those crucial throws that you want him to make. Reed Harris, I mean, what else can you say about a guy that's an absolute athletic freak at 6'5"? But it's not only that he can win pretty much every fade route, every 50-50 ball, shielding the defender, but the athleticism that he displays for somebody his size has been really impressive. Had some really nice catches in tonight's scrimmage. Also had a touchdown reception as well. And Raiden Vines-Bright, who spent 3 of his high school years 7 miles up south over here at Coronado del Sol. The transfer from Washington really shows to be probably the starter at the slot wide receiver. Really a well-rounded player who can block really well on the perimeter. And anytime you need to find a wide receiver to make that play in tight spaces, Vines-Bright is definitely your guy. So you have like 3 starters who I think as a group are better than all the starters that we saw last year. And now you have guys like Jaron Hamilton, Jalen Moss, Corey Butler, who I think is definitely flashed a few times. Redshirt freshman Ryan Nellums, who I think is one of the biggest surprises of spring. Those guys coming off the bench. And then you have guys like Derek Esubio, that is probably going to be much healthier in fall camp than he is now. And now you just have a really good group of wide receivers at the disposal of the quarterbacks, tight ends. I think Kamari Anderson, the veteran returning player from last year, is due for a breakout season. I thought he had a good scrimmage tonight. A.J. Ia is showing that he's better as a blocker, and obviously when he got that ridiculous 6'6", 260-pound frame, you do expect him really to shield any incoming defender. We're seeing that. I think a pleasant surprise has been Anthony Miller, the Tulane transfer. He's somebody that can be integral in this tight end group. So overall, I think that's one unit which I'm expecting big things this year. And last but not least, the offensive line group. I think that Tana Alatupola, the center transfer from Georgia Tech, and has been really what ASU need us for is stability at center. Makai Stewart, who played a lot at guard at true freshman, is somebody who definitely continues to grow. Really great battle at left tackle between Jalen Clem and Champ Westbrooks. Westbrooks now does have the upper hand. Let's not forget that Jermaine Mitchell, the junior college transfer who was committed to Georgia at one point, is still not practicing. But I think once he's going to be up and running, I think there's going to be a lot of competition out there. Players like Rob Lupano, his cousin Lenny Lupano, also really flashing. And overall, I thought that even on a night like tonight in scrimmage, where there were a lot of big running plays to be had, that is a great testament to how well this offensive line has been run blocking. I think pass blocking, they did a better job in the first part of the scrimmage rather than the last part. But overall, I think this offensive line is also just one more group on this side of the ball that we're seeing a lot of growth from last year.
For sure. And when it comes to the defense as well, Kenny Dillingham talked about the fact that not just for defense, but overall, he wants to see more physicality moving forward. There are spring ball and fall camp upcoming. But some of the names on this defense right now, and when it comes to the corners and defensive line, are guys who could definitely make an impact for ASU coming up, and also some shuffling when it comes to some of the coaching on the defensive side of the ball. So what have you seen out of ASU's defense?
Yeah, I mean, we look at the run stopping. It's probably not fair to judge ASU because both the presumed starters, C.J. Fight and Zach Swanson, have been out due to injuries and not been able to participate in 11-11. Truth be told, I've seen a lot of good things from the junior college transfers here in Vanille and Jeffrey Mons, returning players like Rashad McKenzie and Blazin Lana Wong. It also looked good in the interior. I just thought that maybe compared to the beginning of spring practice, this week was kind of hit and miss with them. So I think we'll see how that in interior that defensive line does perform later on. We talked many times what a great job ASU did at defensive end, the transfer portal with Jalen Thompson and Amarian Winston. But you also have a true freshman in Julian Hugo, who Kenny Dillingham mentioned a couple of times already in spring. Somebody who I was quote unquote warned about as far as being a true freshman that can really pop out there. And I think that we've definitely seen that happen as well. And also a guy like Roman Petrie, who is a returning player, who I think is going to figure much more in the two deep than he has so far. So I think the defensive line, the talent is there. Again, they're dealing with some absences, some injuries, but overall, I think from top to bottom, it should be an improved group and a deeper group. At linebacker, we were all told that Owen Long, the transfer from Colorado State, is going to be the heir apparent to Keyshawn Elliott. Huge shoes to fill, but I think Owen Long so far in spring is filling them very, very well. Is really just what exactly you're looking for in that more physical linebacker in ASU scheme. And then next time you have Martell Hughes, who's only a junior but played so much football as freshman and sophomore year. So to have those two guys starting, to have a veteran backup in Zaris Fiaseo was able to get that extra year of eligibility, and a guy like Ramari Davis, transfer from NAU, who I think has been also a pleasant surprise among the transfers, and other players in that group, I think are just forming a really, really nice unit over there. At safety nickelback, Lyric Rawls, the transfer from Kansas, is everything that we thought he's going to be. But another transfer who, if you guys were listening to me for the last several weeks, know that maybe not so much a surprise, Josiah McGrew from FIU, somebody who is going to make it really, really hard for coaches to keep him off the field, and maybe just find a spot for him some way, somehow in the starting lineup, which can make things kind of interesting for Montana Warren, who is pegged to be the strong safety, but because he played so much nickel in his ASU career, I mean, may find his niche to be over there. As you know, Boogie Wilson, who was exceptional last year at free safety, he's somebody that is supposed to play nickel, but is held out due to a shoulder injury. So curious to see when he comes in the fall, how does he mix in with all the players that I just mentioned. But Zeth Theus, the local true freshman, another player that's standing out. So again, this is a safety group that lost so many big contributors from last year, but as filled between true freshmen and especially the transfers, that's really not going to miss a beat. Cornerback, I think that Ashton Stamps, the transfer from LSU, has been absolutely exceptional, and I don't think you're going to see any drop-off between him and Javon Robinson, who was a starter for the last couple of years. Rodney Bimage is a player that showed us time and time again that even in limited reps, he can definitely shine out there, and I think that he is somebody, along with Stamps, are probably going to be the two starters. Joseph Smith, a returning player from last year, is somebody that has had a solid spring. Caleb Chester, the transfer from Texas, also has been shining early, I thought, in the first couple of weeks. Daquan Don, another player that was quote unquote warned about in terms of a true freshman that's going to hit the ground running in the spring, has definitely lived up to that billing. And rounding up the roster overview with special teams, Nick McClarty, the 6'7" punter transfer from Ohio State, has been really impressive. I thought that maybe he's coming in as just giving Cannon Floyd good competition, but right now, I mean, he actually might have the edge in that position battle. Obviously, when you're 6'7", something has to give in terms of booming punts and a pretty high elevation here in Tempe, and that so far has manifested itself. And Carson Smith, the transfer kicker from Austin P, obviously huge shoes at the fill with Jesus Gomez exhausting his eligibility, but so far I thought has been pretty accurate. Still want to see him to see how well he does in kickoffs, but overall I think as far as field goal kicking in the spring, he has been impressive.
For sure. Thank you, Hode, for your evaluations. Clearly, a lot of moving parts for this ASU team going into the fall and going into next season. Freshly, entirely revamped roster, and we've been able to capture footage of them all spring so far, and we'll continue to have the sights and sounds of ASU spring football as the season progresses, and it ends with the Fan Fest towards the middle of April. So we'll have all the coverage for that and so much more. So, Hode, we appreciate you for your insight. For publisher Hode Rubino, I'm Justin Lasvertosa. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Burrito Express and Santan Ford, and we'll talk to you guys soon.